Socialist Seattle City Council, in its infinite wisdom, they bumped up the minimum wage to try and help out the poor DoorDash and Uber Eats workers. But in a shocking turn of events, this has backfired. Business is way, way down for these drivers. It is literally backfired on these companies. Let's get into it. Here we go. This is not shocking. This is Seattle. Let's do this.
Yeah, that $5 fee you may have noticed now on apps like DoorDash and Uber Eats are not only causing frustrated Seattleites to delete their apps altogether, like I reported last week, but now we're learning the very people this ordinance intended to help are actually hurting.
It's just different hotspots.
But what used to be hotspots feel a little colder these days.
I got one.
This was one of few orders.
Awesome. Take it.
That this delivery worker on this Sunday was offered.
Sundays before the ordinance, we'd be thinking breakfast.
Fewer orders.
You know, people, they love their breakfast. Sunday today, I don't even touch it. They're not going to order. And it's definitely backfiring.
Since January 13th.
I've got nothing. I'm not going to sit here for hours for one frickin' order.
Chipotle.
Their jobs have been a lot of waiting for a little reward.
So you might have that hour and you literally only made $8 for that hour.
That ordinance was meant to improve wages for gig workers. You pay more.
The problem is that they're not telling the whole story.
And DoorDash, for example, says drivers will get paid more. At least $26.40 per hour before tips in their estimation.
Assuming that you are working constantly, then yes, you're going to be making that much money. But that's not what's happening right now because
they're lying.
People are not ordering as much anymore.
One driver shared how much he made on this week last year, nearly $1,000. But this is what he made this week. And he's not alone.
Half.
They say they believe they're also competing against more drivers now. And
the tips are going down because they think we're making all this money.
So don't be surprised if you see big groups of them waiting at the hot spots.
For real, we are grinding, and we are for real not getting $26 an hour.
It's called the Pay Up Ordinance. It's designed to protect gig workers. Neither of the two Seattle City Council members who originally championed it, Andrew Lewis and Lisa Herbold, are still currently on the council. Mayor Bruce Harrell recently lauded the implementation of the ordinance, saying that gig workers are critical to Seattle's economy. Reporting live in Seattle, I'm Maddie White, King 5 News.
So DoorDash, Uber Eats hike fees in blue state city over delivery app minimum pay law. Now, before we get into this, so what I want to share with you is that I don't need earphones anymore because we're not watching a video. But I went ahead and I order a lot of food from DoorDash over in Seattle because I got a boat over there and I enjoy spending time over there. I know, you know, it's, why are you hanging out in Seattle? Well, geographically, it's got some incredible stuff going on. You got a lake, you know, tents don't float, that whole thing. It's pretty cool, especially in the summer. Not as much in the winter because it's kind of dreary, but you know, then you got Space Needle and you got all kinds of other stuff in a small area, and it's just a lot of fun. So I order a lot of food. I have historically ordered a lot of food. So I have this one restaurant. It's called 𝗨𝗡𝗪𝗓, and it's Mexican food, and it's outstanding. It's 2 thumbs up. So I went on my app right before this podcast and said, all right, how much is an $18 burrito going to cost me to get theoretically delivered to me? I think it's about 1.5 miles away. And with tax and extra fees, it was over $10. So tax would be it was an $18 burrito. It'd be about $1.80. The rest is just all of these additional fees that Uber or DoorDash is hiking on there because they got to cover the minimum wage that they're paying their drivers. So I am for an $18 burrito, I'm not going to have, you know, another $12, $13 between tax, fees, their extra delivery fees they're charging me, and a small tip. The woman is right. That was the delivery driver. If I'm paying all these other fees, I'm probably not going to have this delivered to me because I'm going to choose to go get it myself. I'm going to say, All right, Sean, let's get on one of those crazy green lime scooters and let's scooter our way down and scooter our way back. That's a lot of fun too. A little bit tough juggling food, but where there's a will, there's a way. I'm either going to do that or I'm going to say, no, I'm not buying from you anymore. This is just too much money. When you do a delivery, maybe you do or you don't. Maybe you don't live in an area where that's a thing. But here in Bellevue and in Seattle, we can order from all kinds of places all over, basically have everything delivered you want. And oftentimes I'll look, and if it's outrageous with delivery fee, if it's outrageous with all these other, things they tack on in there, I won't do it. And if I know there's a huge upcharge just because of the way that our Seattle City Council has gone with the minimum wage, I'm going to say hell to the no. I'm going to be a big no-go kind of guy and say, you know what? I don't have an issue, getting my food delivered at a reasonable price. But if you're going to just gouge me, no, go F yourself. Homie, don't play that game, right? Seattle residents face higher delivery bills from services like DoorDash, Instacart, and Uber Eats after a new law took effect that requires minimum payments to app-based workers who drive for those platforms. The Seattle City Council's app-based worker minimum payment ordinance took effect on Saturday and requires a minimum payment for workers based on the time worked and miles traveled for each offer. Companies must pay the greater of a minimum per minute amount of 44 cents and a minimum per mile amount of 74 cents or a minimum per offer amount of $5. The ordinance also establishes a right to upfront disclosures of offer information and receipt and payment records, as well as a right to access the network platform without limitations other than those related to health and safety. What? No wonder you're just crushing business. You're not letting the free market do its thing. All right, what are people willing to pay for? All right, well, these guys can hustle and get some more tips. Bottom line is, in a city like Seattle, you cannot afford to be an Uber Eats or a DoorDash driver and live in Seattle. That means you've got commute from somewhere far, far away, or you got 14 roommates, or, you got some wonky living situation because things are so expensive. Housing is so incredibly expensive. And so you've got these socialists, you've got these communists in Seattle that are like, okay, all right, yeah, we don't really understand the whole business concept, but, workers of the world unite, so we're going to go down that road. It should be fine. It'll take care of all these workers. And what's happening? Half. And I'm not talking about what you get in the divorce settlement. I'm talking about half of your pay if you're on Uber Eats or a DoorDash, because people are going to push back. We've already had the massive inflation. Everything is already, that $18 burrito used to be a $12 burrito, and it wasn't that long ago, right? And so you've got all this inflation already. Prices are just jacked up. So now to be a lazy ass and just tee it up on your phone, I'm really lazy today. I just don't want to go and get my food or make my own food. Any of those options would be cheaper. Going to have it delivered. You're going to have huge pushback because people, at some point in time, people are going to say, no, we're not doing that. That's ridiculous. And, a lot of us are already there. So a lot of these companies, the restaurants, have the ability to have their own delivery fee. Now they're going to have less business, but they're going to make a little bit more money. They're going to cover overhead. And oftentimes for these restaurants, the orders coming out of DoorDash and Uber Eats, those are loss leaders. They really are. It keeps a little bit of their overhead covered, but they're not making big money because DoorDash and Uber Eats, they take a chunk out of that gross figure. So these are not big money makers for them. So this whole thing where Seattle just doesn't understand business. I mean, from the standpoint of let's tax Amazon and we'll just see what happens. I'm sure they'll stick around. Amazon, yeah, headquarters too, not in Seattle. Hey, let's move about 25,000. I don't know, just a whole bunch of people over to Bellevue. Now, I don't remember what that actual number was, but it's a lot. And because Bellevue doesn't do that kind of thing. That's stupid. It's just stupid. in Seattle. I can't figure out why things aren't going all that well here. What's the dealio, guys? And those two, Lisa Herbold and Alex, whatever his name was, those guys are not on the city council anymore. Do you think we'll have a repeal of that ridiculousness? No. This is Seattle, folks. Let's be real. It also confers a right to not be penalized for limiting availability or refusing offers, and a right to cancel an offer with cause. Whatever, guys, whatever. Some of those things, maybe they're reasonable. I don't even know. I don't care. Because I'm not in Seattle. I'm not really planning on using my food app anymore. Unless I'm, really hungry. I really need that burrito. Maybe the steak quesadilla. I think it's a steak quesadilla. La Palmera. It's got some good food. If you're in Seattle, it's a winner. It's really close to the Space Needle. In response to the new requirements, app-based food and grocery delivery services that rely on so-called gig workers are raising their prices and curbing benefits to users because of the increased costs that result from compliance. So you have added another component into their cost of production. They're going to pass it along to the consumer. The consumer is going to say, no, we're not going to get our food that way. We're going to come into the restaurant. We're going to physically come in and pick it up. We're not going to, for that small component, I could get an extra thing of chips and salsa, chips and guac, instead of just, I was really worth it having Jose hand it off to me in the parking lot out there. This is Seattle. Seattle is so backwards. It's you got to laugh at times. It's like, what did you guys think would happen? What did you think would happen? Instacart will guarantee its shoppers the minimum amount under the Seattle law, which amounts to over $26 per hour. But it's ending the availability of its heavy pay, peak earning times, and instant cash out to shoppers in Seattle because of the law's requirements. So you're going to have to make up this difference, this increase in the minimum hourly wage. Somebody's going to have to incur that cost, right? Uber supports and advocates for thoughtful earning standards. Here's the corporate speak across the country that help all sides of the marketplace. An Uber spokesperson told Fox Business in a statement, unfortunately, this one more than doubles the fees consumers will have to pay, which means fewer orders for businesses and less opportunities for delivery workers. My $12 burrito will now be well over $30 when I am all said and done. For one burrito. We're not talking anything else. You don't get the big Coke. You don't get the big Fanta in there. You don't get the chips and guac. You don't get the chips and salsa. You get un burrito. It's the meal. It's got a little bit of rice in there, and it's got a little bit of beans. I think like you can get refried, right, or black beans. It's a decent meal, but you're not talking, for $30. Shouldn't that be a meal for two? It should be, but it just no longer is. It's uno if it's delivered. Yeah. So I see this literally tanking business in Seattle because people are already watching their budgets. I mean, food costs have just gone through the roof, right? I don't care who you are. If you can afford big bucks for food, that's one thing. But I think people are literally just going to go, oh man, good Lord, have you seen the fees here? And they're going to go, no. DoorDash said in a press release, throughout this process, we warned the city that while well-intentioned, aren't all these socialist communist policies well-intentioned? Well-intentioned? These extreme policy changes would have adverse effects on all members of our community, dashers, merchants, and consumers. Yeah, the whole big perfect circle jerk just isn't going to happen anymore, right? Because you got nobody in the circle. Yeah, the consumer, the one driving. I'm out. It's no circle for me anymore. The company said its drivers, whom it calls dashers, will now earn at least $26.40 per hour before tips plus mileage for time on delivery. That's if they have any trips to do. That is based on them going full tilt, right? Hourly. And they're just not. That we've seen. It's like half. You're gonna deal with half. Consumers will also face a new regulatory response fee at checkout, and the company said changes around Dashers' availability under the rules may mean that they have to wait longer or receive fewer offers because more Dashers may be available at a given time. More Dashers will be available because there is less business to go around. So you've got more Dashers, and the longer wait time, I will not order something based on a long wait time. If they tell me up front, because you can see how long it'll take to get there, and they give you a range, right? They give you a range. I will not do that. If I'm just getting bent over and reamed, not going to do it. So there you go. But that's just me. Maybe you guys want to throw away your money. And yeah, I love the DoorDashers. Maybe you know somebody who's a DoorDasher. And they all knew. I mean, the vast majority of these folks are like, yeah, I don't think this whole, price hike thing with Seattle, I don't think that's going to work out all that well for us. Here's your sign. But, this is Seattle, so you got to expect this kind of nonsense to happen. Shenanigans, I say, shenanigans. I know you guys are keeping track, and it's been, I haven't had any shenanigans to say on this one because this is Seattle. And, it almost goes without saying that most of what happens here is just a case point in shenanigans, because that's what we do all day long. But DoorDash, Uber Eats, yeah, probably. I'll do it here in Bellevue. I won't do it in Seattle. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe, hit that notification bell, hit the like button for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for being here. Catch up on the next one. Bye for now.